in here, so
Okay, perfect.
I'm in my mosquito net right now, so I'm safe. I'm safe.
You don't
Yeah,
spray
good.
the mosquito repellent?
No, I just crawled into my net.
Okay, okay. Yeah, I just get the
Good, good.
mosquito repellent and just wear that.
Uh, okay, well, good evening, good night.
Yes.
Um,
Definitely a good evening, right? Yeah.
yeah, in here it's 1 o'clock. It's 1 o'clock in here
Oh wow.
at at night.
Wow.
So let's chat. Let's chat.
So I think our first
what are
topic
we?
is the combustion engine behind world wars. And um, you sent me some stuff on, you know, World War Two and World War One, where the trenches, later on, a lot of heavy industry was built there. So that was interesting what you said. I wanted to hear more of that.
You want to hear more of that, do you want do you want the storyline?
No, I
Shall
wanted
I?
to.
Because you read it, right?
Yes.
And there's a third person. There's you, me, and a third person, the listener of the
Okay.
show,
Okay.
right?
Yes.
So 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 uh, should I should I tell it, or maybe you want to read it, or
No, I think
how
you should tell it. Tell. I want to hear where it was coming from. Like, what was the whole inspiration behind that
okay.
thought process?
Yeah, where it's coming from is well, it's the story of the world wars in from a different perspective that we have been fed it in so-called education, and that's always the Jewish angle, and eugenics, etc. And of course, the yeah, he, right, the man is always hitting more birds with one stone. So I'm not saying that all that is nonsense, but coincidentally, coincidentally, the combustion engine was a success in the United States, in the Americas, right? And the cities grew along with the combustion engine. So the cities have these long, broad lanes for this combustion engine on wheels, and let me say old money in Europe wanted to transfer this success to the European market, which was especially in those days at the end of the 19th and the beginning of the 20th century. The European market was much bigger than the American, right? So they wanted to transfer this success of the engine, the combustion engine on wheels, to the European market. But um, they needed they needed space in many ways, right? For this combustion engine to move around, but also for the heavy industry to produce it, produce the combustion engine like Ford did in the Americas. So here's the first World War with these trench wars, shifting up and down, and leveling leveling the terrain for the heavy industry. If you look where these trench wars were held, that's exactly where the heavy industry is in Europe, right? At the border between Germany and France. I have to say Germany, Belgium, and and France.
Now, do
Uh,
you think this was planned?
well, it could be. Yes, yes. There's um, a, a certain factor is yeah, 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 to a certain level, not 100%. Like, let's have trench wars over here, but yeah, to a certain level, it was planned. Yeah, how everything is sort of planned, like everything that quote unquote the man does is sort of planned. They stumble forward, if you understand what I'm saying. So as it happens, they plan it, right? So for example, let me say it starts, the trench war starts, and then they be like, hey, look here, we could blah blah, etc. You understand? So the same on the eastern border of Germany. So yeah, here coincidentally, this industrial juggernaut is being planned, right? So at the eastern border, Prusen, I don't know how you pronounce it in English, but Prusen, East
I think
Prusen,
we were taught Prussian, but I'm going to go with
Prussian.
Prussian from now on.
Okay. Prussian, East Prussian, and that's the eastern border of Germany, where trench wars were held, and the western border of Germany is somewhere between Belgium, France, and Germany, where till this day a lot of these car factories are, right. München, Aachen, etc. And also the heavy industry, Talbot, etc. For the French heavy industry. And then after the First World War, you have this period. First, of course, Germany was paying the damage, and they were suffering economically, right? They were the slaves of England, France, and other coalition countries, and they were paying the damage of the First World War. But then this dude Hitler popped up, and what happens? Excuse me. He promotes the Volkswagen, right? The car for the people. Volk is folk, right? Folk, uh, and wagen is car. So the car for the people. He promotes that, and he starts building the U-Bahn, the highways across Europe through Germany, right? Still till this day, if a Turkish immigrant wants to go visit family, the largest part of the of the trip is on roads that Hitler built. So yeah, the infrastructure between the cities is laid down, the highways
Now,
between
that's
the
an
cities.
interesting thing you just said, and I've been trying to tell people that linkage between the nation state as we see it today, the modern day nation state, taxation, and military expansion. Um, Not just Hitler. You look at Mussolini, did
Yeah.
the same thing,
Yes.
right? This expansion where there's taxation, there's military expansion, there's these large industrial works. Um, you look at FDR, right? The New Deal, right? These
Yeah.
large industrial work programs that arise after they raise bonds. And so I'm saying all that to say, to juxtapose it to say, even again, Germany after World War II and Japan and then China, right, with Nixon. When they talk about African or Africa developing, I don't think people put that together. Like people just don't connect the two that in order to do that, and I personally I'm not a fan of it, but let's just say we go along with it. In order to do that, you would have to have a military expansive.
Yeah,
Yeah, go ahead.
democracy, democracy on our continent, democracy is used to keep us tidy. You know, it's to keep us away from what you just described, right? This you named it nation state, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay, nation state. I just got I'm not that schooled or that well read as I think you are. So I just call it dictatorship, right? We need Africa needs a dictator to push stuff through, right? Because without a Hitler, shit wouldn't have been done, right?
But is it worth
You
the
would have.
cost? Is it worth the
Yeah,
cost?
is it worth the cost? I think on our continent right now, if we do it now before it gets over, well, not overpopulated, but before it gets really populated, if we do it now, it wouldn't cost that much, I think. You know, if we do it now, it wouldn't cost that much. It's because Europe was old, right? The old stuff was still intact. Well, while Africa is quite new, right? So these cities are exploding. The last 30 years or something, or maybe 40 or 50 years, these cities are growing, right? So everything is kind of new, and often in African cities, a large part, sorry, except the old colonial centers of the cities, a large part is not that, uh, the houses are not that quality, right? So they are bulldozered quite easy, if you know what I'm saying. I mean, I don't want to sound too heartless, but it's the cities are kind of soft, right? So it could be done. Let me finish the storyline of those two world wars, right? And it's actually four world wars. Uh, uh, so so um, so Hitler builds those U-bahns. He lays down the highways between the cities, and then World War II starts, right? Of course, a lot of in the industrial leaps ahead in warfare. And well, cities are carpet bombed, right? And first it's Germany's turn to open up the inner cities in of Germany's enemies, right? And in the second half of the Second World War, it's the Allies that open up the inner cities of German of German cities, and it's all opening up, and this isn't, well, it's kind of harsh to say that it's planned and done for the combustion engine on wheels, but well, coincidentally it worked out well, especially for the city where I live, Rotterdam. And Rotterdam is right now the supplier of Northwest Europe as a transshipment port, and it's all one big Marshall Plan. And the best example that it was, well, again the planned with the quotes, right? The best example that it was planned was this neighborhood. Coincidentally, a lot of Cape Verdeans live there. Marconiplein. It sounds like the Allies won something, gained advances in southern South America, because this 2 weeks after the Germans gave up, the this neighborhood was carpet bombed to make room for fruit terminal, a port especially for fruit juices, pulp from fruits,
Oranges.
from or oranges, exactly, from South America, right? So this accidental carpet bombing was, yeah, quite suspicious, right? 2 weeks after, and it all fits in this Marshall Plan to the city also was carpet bombed,
So for Africa,
and
right?
and it's the city was also carpet bombed, and it's for the logistics, right? To suit the ports, these trucks with all those products, and these trains with all those products need to go into Europe, just like transshipment. These smaller boats need to go into Europe. So it damn sure sounds like planned, right? But excuse me, what did you say?
No, no, what I was saying is for Africa,
Yeah,
because
Africa comes now.
we we see these things where, for example, in Lagos, there was a community called Maroko, right? And Maroko was kind of like a Venice. It was a poor version of Venice. People, lived on the water.
Uh, yes, I know. Yeah, continue.
Yeah. And so the government kicks them out, takes their land, and now you have Banana Island and Lekki and all these places. But what I'm saying is
R-
that when we see this idea of developing Africa, it comes at great social cost because those people from Morocco were never compensated, right? And in the European and the American sense, this eminent domain mentality, this uh, um, I forgot what it was called, but we learned it in high school. Manifest destiny, right? This manifest destiny thought process. Well, all's well that ends well, and the British say keep a stiff upper lip, and the ends justify the means. Can we continue with that type of mentality and bring it to Africa? Because you see people being large scale affected. There's no, recourse for them, all in the name of Africa so called developing. Is that feasible for us?
Well, I have a plan, right? I have a plan. I've learned. I grew up in Rotterdam, and Rotterdam works together with Antwerp, a Belgium port city, and Rotterdam does the standardized stuff, the pulp and the bulk, right? So the standardized stuff is, of course, the containers. The pulp is this fruit terminal and such, and the bulk is ore, iron ore, coal, etc. Right, and Antwerp does the rest, the so-called non-conveyables, and so I dream of transferring such a coalition between cities here in West Africa, right? So Cape Verde has the largest natural port on the globe, and Dakar, with its peninsula, is right in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. So what Rotterdam and Antwerp are doing for just a part of Europe, and look, yeah, I mean, it brings in a lot of money. Imagine being the transshipment center of the entire Atlantic Ocean,
Now,
and
would that trade be focused on African trade? Because I think that's where I have the pushback, right? Where I say a lot of times, our okay, I'm glad you brought up Antwerp and you brought up Europe, right? There's a guy, Emmanuel Wallerstein. He talks about the birth of capitalism comes about from an agrarian revolution or revolt, and you know Europe was going through massive famines at the time, even before the so-called Irish potato famines, which is well known. But this was like in the 1600s. There was food shortages and things of that nature because there was that transition from the medieval serf way of life to this, cosmopolitan, and the Dutch are primarily the ones who spur that in many instances. You look at New York, was originally New Amsterdam, right?
Right.
And so, um, but I'm saying all that to say Europe had to do it because they were starving. They were gonna die. Africa doesn't necessarily have to do that. Africa can literally say tomorrow, we can only trade with ourselves. We don't need anyone else, and they'll be fine.
Yeah,
So
that's
that's
true.
that's what
That's
I'm
true.
trying to say is the adjustment. So how do we adjust? So not saying that we shouldn't trade with others, but it seems as if the global system has always said you need international trade. You need international trade. But largely speaking, international trade benefits Europe and America because it's for some magic, all the goods flow there, all the capital flows there. And
Yeah, yeah.
you
That's
know,
well. That's in this storyline. That's what I call the third World War. So after the Second World War, there was this Third World War, and what was the World War? Well, we you might think it were the colonial wars, right? But no, it's the result. Uh, uh, it's right after the colonial wars. Maybe the colonial wars forced Europeans to some extent to colonize us again, but from a different angle. They colonized us with their documents, with their standardization, right? So the IMF, the World Bank, money pegged to loans instead of goods, right? Because if they would continue to peg money to goods, they would have lost the colonial wars, right? But yeah, eventually they won with their documents, with the IMF and World Bank. They won, right? And that also fits into this Marshall Plan, and maybe that's what pushed this success in the 60s, that made them create the Immigration Act. Because in that period there was a boom. What created that boom? Well, maybe the 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 victory over the so-called third world,
no, one
right?
hundred percent. I mean, you look at Ghana. Ghana is probably the perfect case study, where Nkrumah was trying to. He said, "Oh, I'm going to, use cocoa as a commodity to escape." And what did the Europeans do? They just collapsed the cocoa market right before his eyes. And so
Exactly.
his revenue stream that he was trying to, they collapsed it, and they could afford to do that because they knew
Yes,
that they could stay solvent longer than he could. And so,
exactly. Look at Banana Republic. Where does it come from? From the
yes,
same
the
thing
idea
in
exactly
Central America.
America, and so that yes, the
Chiquita
idea of the
dominating
banana
nations.
republics, or so it for me when I hear the Pan African movement, in many instances, pretty much just repeat, wash, rinse, and repeat the idea of development that comes from the European standard. But when we look at it historically, like you said, and I'm glad you brought up Rotterdam, they had to create their systems because they were faced with immense food shortages. right? They were faced with immense problems when they were building their nation state. I mean, one of the things they did that was unheard of, they did enclosure acts. They took land over from the common
Yes,
folk, the Volks,
yes, yes,
and they
yes,
took the
and
land and
again,
split
Netherlands.
it.
Yeah, yes, I saw that, or I didn't see it because I was too young, but I understood it. Uh, um, excuse me, I understood it because in the Cape Verdean Islands we had land reforms. We called it land reforms, and um, I think it failed. I think it failed because we PAIGC, P A I G C, PAIGC, phonetically, the Amico Cabral, his political party, after the colonial wars, it became a political party, and they took the landowners, right, the Portuguese, or the sons, or the products of Portuguese that still owned a lot of land, and actually my parents were sharecroppers, living on the land of the colonizer, or the sons of colonizers. So Paige they did land reforms, and in the Netherlands you had the same thing, but not with a dictatorship. People were lured into the city. Come work for the factory. Come work in the ports, and earn this American car, right? And so people left their small piece of land, and verkaveling. It was in the Netherlands. It's called verkaveling, because one kavel is one small piece of land, right? And so a lot of people sold their heritage. Right, they sold the land that they got from their parents, and large farms, large farmers developed, and to fit the industry, right?
Yes,
So
monocropping and single crops, where now all of a sudden only crops is corn, potatoes, um,
exactly,
and it's just these
apples,
mono
pears.
apples, pears, which again goes back to this plantation system, that system where they study, okay, how many calories does one human need to consume in order to work. And so they've
Yeah,
calculated, oh, you need about 2,500 calories. So we'll just make sure that, okay, what's the best foods that provide potatoes, um, you know, steak, um, apples,
and
bananas. And so they've
yes,
calculated this.
yes, it became calculatable. But to get back in, that you said in Africa it's probably not necessary. Well, today, coincidentally, I had some conversations today and yesterday about logistics here at the border of the border between Mauritania and Senegal. And there are projects, but they're going very slow, and it's actually it's the key because here, yeah, in contrary to the rest of both countries, here you have the Senegal River, so you're not dependent on the rainy season, right? You can do agriculture the whole year through. But logistics, right? Logistics. So still there are small farms, right? It's well, tomatoes are fairly well industrialized, if I may call it industrialized, uh, uh, because there's a national factory that creates, let me call it, ketchup, right? Uh, um, but there are still a lot of these small farmers that uh, well, they do crops, they do tomatoes and a lot of variations. I've seen a lot of different crops being done here, but what could help them is roads, logistics, right? That would help them understand that. Um, uh, that they need a shift. They need um, yeah. How my English is failing me right now. Gross
No, I
is that
understand exactly what you're saying. That with the
right in
building of
in
roads,
larger
is
larger
yeah,
quantities, instead of one uh, um, one family,
yeah. Instead of
right?
subsistence, they want a larger, to approach from a larger market perspective.
Exactly, and
But
it
here's the
doesn't need
question.
to.
But let me push back then, right? So then, if that's the
Yeah.
case, 1960 Africa, for the most part, most of these African countries were much more developed than even some European countries who were recovering after World War II. Yet,
Yes, I
yet,
believe Nigeria was a juggernaut, right?
of course, yet the average farmer was still doing what he was doing today. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? Like, I think what we've been taught is that we have to go away from subsistence farming. But I say, but if that's the case, so how come in 1960, 1970, even,
Well,
yeah,
that's
go
that's what that's what I was going to say. That's what I was going to say. So it's not needed. The verkaveling, right? What happened in the Netherlands is not needed. What is needed is coalitions. What I see here in this area is what is done with rice. So what is done here with rice should be done with these other crops, right? So there's these small farmers, they bring their rice to a certain place with the facilities to work the rice, right? And all those small rice farmers make one big uh, coalition, right? They don't even work together. No, this central place stacks their products together, and then the rice can be it's eventually, so you still have small farmers, but the product is done big, if you understand what I mean. I'm sorry for my English,
no, no,
man.
no, 100% understand because if you look at after the slave trade, what the Africans were doing, and even during the slave trade, they grew, for example, palm oil was very big, was in high demand. And what they would do is individual farmers would pool their resources together. And that's why I think village development is actually key. Instead of city development, village development, because before people, what got people out of their villages, it wasn't that the city was this beautiful place. No, what forced people, and that's why it goes back to Hitler and Mussolini and the machinery of the state, it was taxation. When the colonial masters came, the first thing they did was they said everyone has to pay a hut tax. And so in the old days, when a conqueror comes to your land, right? You say, okay, conqueror, you beat our ass, you killed most of our men. All right, what can we do? So the Romans would say, just pay us a tribute. All right, listen, Rome, this is all we make. Okay, look, you guys give us 300 cows. Ah, come on, Rome, 300 cows, that's crazy. Be reasonable. All right, look, 200 cows every year. We come back, we need 200 cows. Okay, so everyone knows as you're farming, you're doing whatever, you get your 200 cows for Rome. Which, hey, from now on, give all the cows to Rome, we'll eat goats. Right? The people say, we'll eat goats, we'll eat something else, we'll eat deer instead of cows. We'll develop a taste for goats. Goats taste better anyway. Let the Romans have the cows. But When the European came and we told the European, okay, we'll pay you with yams, and he said, oh no, I don't want your yams. Okay, we'll pay you with something. Oh, I don't want that. I want cash. Well, where am I going to get this cash? Oh, don't worry. I've set up a nice an administrative system in the cities. So I don't know what the major city is in Cape Verde, but I'm in Dakar. So I set up administration in Dakar. I set up administration in Lagos. You're going to go there and you're going to work, and then you're going to pay the hut tax. So that forces people off their land. So now, like
Mhm.
what you're saying, I think if African governments are serious, they will take an approach to say, look, like you said, let's make sure these villages have roads. Let's make sure these villages have cooperations or cooperative networks like they do in Europe. Europe is very, very smart in that aspect. Right? Let's have cooperative networks where individual farmers, the Volks, can pool their resources together and, you know, start to trade on the international and foreign market. So now a village in Cape Verde, if they're growing, for example, let's say rice, and they have livestock, and they're up to standard, they can contact a group in Mexico and say, hey, listen, we actually need maybe some agave or some tequila. We would like some agave and tequila. We have $1 million worth of rice and $1 million worth of livestock. We put it on the ship, the manifest, the goods are good, they're clear, third party broker. We have, all the technologies there. You can exchange, send us the agave, the third party broker will make sure everything is good. The ship manifest details that everything is on the ship, that no one's being cheated. You get your rice and chicken. We get the agave and the tequila, which we can now sell, in our own market. This can be done. I don't know what you think about that.
Yes, that can be done. Yeah, yeah. I've I've uh, I've I've dreamed about this in the beginning of in '95 when I got when I rolled back into information technology and internet was coming up. I dreamt as immigrant. I dreamt of immigrants going back to their country. Right. I was still this integrationist product of European education, and I dreamt of immigrants going back to their countries and competing with these multinationals and bringing back the small grocery shops in European towns, right? And what you just explained is the version for our continent, or for the so-called, yeah, that's the other side, right? So I was thinking as an integrationist, so I was not thinking about back home, but what you just explained is the version back home, because of this internet, this communication technology. We could trade among each other worldwide, in the so-called third world, and dump dump the so-called West. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's doable, but still, locally, the logistics need to be fixed.
No, agreed, agreed, and I think that's, but that's why I've always said, you know, because and what when you talked about the World War I, and well, it's very profound, but again, no one talks about, because I think what you said, tying that in with the idea of Hitler, Mussolini, all these people, their biggest source of revenue was internal taxation, and then the bonds that they were able to raise. Most African, we're not even talking of the national governments. The local governments can't even raise a bond to save their life. The local people won't buy it, and the foreign people won't buy it. Because all the roads, for example, in the U.S., I don't know about Europe or the Netherlands, but the roads are maintained a lot of times by debt. They're able to raise debt. People purchase it, and then you put a toll booth at different exits, right? You put whatever thing. So now it's
Yeah,
generating
is the
revenue.
toll
You say
is the
that?
toll booth not is the toll booth not something new?
I don't know. I don't know, but I know that they put up the toll booth, and now the toll booth, because the number of people taking that road, so you're generating revenue. That revenue maintains the road and can pay off the debt that was used to facilitate the building of the road in the first place. So you can project within 10 years, let's say from this particular region in Dakar, let's say 3 million drivers a year, and they pay, I don't know, let's say 5,000 CF a franc for each toll on both sides. So that's 10,000. So that's 10,000 times 3 million. And so half of that will go towards maintenance, salary for the workers, and the other half will go towards paying down the debt. So for the next 10 years, you know you're going to get this much paid back to you. I think that is how most European and American local governments are able to. And then, of course, they get state and federal funding. But that's how they're able
I
to,
In
I
the
don't know. What do you
Netherlands,
think?
in the Netherlands, is it's just taxation, taxation, taxation. If you buy a car in the Netherlands, in Belgium or Germany, you only pay 2/3 of what you pay here in the Netherlands. Gasoline, same thing. So here in the Netherlands, or here, I'm not. Well, okay. In the Netherlands where I live, it's taxation, man. We're a super taxed, and there's nearly no. I don't even know of toll roads in the Netherlands. I don't even know of toll roads in the Netherlands. I don't even. I think if you ask me, they don't exist in the Netherlands. But
So
in Belgium,
I guess
yes.
that's the trade-off. I guess for the Netherlands, they'd rather just pay the taxes because, of course, in America, most states they'll fight. Oh, we don't like taxes. Americans have this hatred for taxes.
Yeah,
So
Belgium also.
yeah,
You
so
you 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 notice the difference, if you drive from the Netherlands to Belgium, you notice the difference, right?
what's the difference in
Everything,
the road?
in the Netherlands, everything is super new, super smooth, super maintained, and in Belgium, it's way less.
That's interesting. So Jose, let's unless you wanted to keep talking about, it, I wanted us to talk about that Will Smith and no, well, not Will Smith, but Jaden Smith and Jada Pinkett, the relationship. You said the mother son relationship. I wanted to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, yeah. I chose. I thought about how to word it, right? You asked for a few topics, and I worded it at a certain way to force it to force the conversation in a way, right? So you have this cross relationship, right? Father daughter and mother son, and I think the mothers are miming the sons, right? In the West, mothers are miming the sons, and I believe, if you look at the works, at Will Smith's early works, right? Uh, the Fresh Prince of Bel Air. This theme, this theme of his relationship with his father. It's it's always this absent father, but the son is there locked up in the house, even if moms marries another man, and the son has a stepdad, the son is there locked up in the house, in the mind control, because that's what education is, in the mind control of mommy, right? And these mommy boys are being created, that don't know how to behave as a man, right? So a man overthinks things, in my eyes, right? A man is not impulsive, a man plans, a man is long term, right? And women, let me not use the term female, women are bond to the belly of the baby, and so women are short term. We I need food now, right? So women women should not program boys, let me say, after the sixth or seventh or eighth year, the boy, the sons should be handed over to the programming of the father. That's what I think is what we are looking at. We are
That's
looking
interesting.
at we are looking at a man that has been programmed by his mother.
That's very interesting. You say that. I definitely agree with a lot of the sentiments. I think again, you see, and that's why with um, these Pan African arguments, I was on a recent show, and a gentleman said that the African man is no good, and he's not protecting the black woman, and he's saying a lot of talking points that women like to hear. Right? I always say a lot of black men love to say certain talking points because they think it's going to get them women, and it probably does. Women send them messages. Oh, I like you. And, they try to sleep with them. But um, I think that he said something that was interesting. He said because the women in Africa have not been given a choice, that's why they haven't gone against their men. And that's a very, very profound thing that he said because, um, you
Was
know,
that in the other show? Was that in the
yes,
other
yes,
show?
yes, it was in the other show. And the reason why I'm saying it's profound, it ties into what you're saying, what you just said, is because the minute you have a strong African state, for the most part, the way we think of a state government, a federal government, a nation state, it largely entails, especially women who don't have the means, it largely entails them not relying on the men from their class and their culture. It largely entails them relying on the elite men, the men who are of martial protection, military, police, and it largely relies on them relying on the men of the state in the form of taxation. So that state programs. In America, you have the welfare, you have the WIC,
May,
all these
may
things. I
I
don't know what you have in Netherlands.
may I toss in a word?
Yeah.
At the farm, at the animal farm,
Well,
right? In the
yeah.
diaspora,
Hmm.
we are like the animal farm, right? We are being controlled not by ourselves. We are being controlled. We are not controlling ourselves.
Yes.
The state. We are being controlled. So we are like cattle on a farm. And when did you see a bull farm? When did you see a rooster farm? And when did you see a ram herder? No, it's sheep herder, it's cow farm, and it's chicken farm.
Yes. Yes. And that's the nature of the state. And the minute, and I think, again, the Pan Africanists, in their fervor for African development, which I'm not against, they're not putting that into context to say, The perfect example of what Africa will likely look like, I hope not, is South Africa. Because South Africa right now is in an identity crisis. When you
For
look
sure.
at some of the cultural things that are accepted in South Africa that are not accepted in any other state in Africa. I don't want to, we don't need to talk about some of those things on this channel. We don't need that unnecessary attention. But some
Yeah,
of the,
I'm afraid.
yeah,
I'm afraid the Cape Verde Islands is accepting that,
of
right?
course.
But the Cape Verde Island is also in a identity crisis. It's it's like my people, especially on a in the second city, right? Not the capital, but the second city. This largest harbor, right? This
Mm.
largest natural harbor. Uh, uh, I don't know if you know, but Cape Verde Islands is divided in two. It's the language, right? It's two dialects, and the northern group of the Windward Islands, and the other the other wind, uh, um, and where I come from, and this island with this largest port largest natural port, and thus the second city of the Cape Verde Islands. Where I come from, people act as if there's a white spectator. It's like, see, I act right. I act European. See, look at me. Follow the European trends, right? Yeah, those subjects that we that that are dangerous to or dangerous. Well, I don't want to mention them either. But let's call it the deterioration of the family, of the nuclear family, right?
Yes.
Yes, those things happen in that, especially in that city, that Mindelo, the port city, and people act like, oh, look at me, look at me. It's like, I've seen it happen with dogs. I've seen it happen with dogs. Dogs, they think they behave as humans, and they look around. Look, boss, I sit on this couch like you understand.
No, 100%. 100%.
And I see, I think that's what you mean about South Africa. Well, the Cape Verdean Islands has that too.
Well, no,
Look at me.
this is what's happening, and it really is a fight because many of the Pan Africans, if they had their way, they would get rid of us from the villages and those people who want to hold on to the traditional cultures, right? And they would get rid of us in exchange for development, but not realizing. I think there was I read the book years ago, 48 Laws of Power, and he pointed out, I think it may have been Mussolini or one dictator, but the dictator demanded that he banned abortion, not
Yeah.
realizing that the the fact that he banned abortion, the children that weren't aborted were the ones who ended up revolting against him.
Oh, that's funny.
You understand?
that's that's surprised me. You surprised me.
Yeah,
That's funny,
you
because
know,
I was waiting for you to finish, to propose, or to suggest that we skip nature. There's human nature, right? Men are men and women are women. And there's one natural law: when you are conquered, and our nation, our continent, our diaspora, and especially our diaspora, we are conquered, right? The men are not tolerated, and the females uh, do their best. I mean, back in the day, okay, back in the day, you had two city nations, two city nations, and they were at war, and one beat the other. What happened? The men were killed, and the females were taken, literally taken. The booty was taken, and and that's what's happening now. Women cater to the actual men in power, and so our women cater to the actual men in power, and they bring up to return to Will Smith and a lot of our men, and
But what
this
about the
example
Arab
that
women? What about the
the,
Japanese women? What about the Chinese women? Their men still face the global system of oppression. Maybe not as much as we are facing it, but
well,
their men still
Japanese.
face it.
I think that Japan is very damaged. Japan is damaged. You know, men commit suicide in droves, man, because they have this tradition that the man should take care of the family, but women cater to the actual man in power.
No, but what I'm saying
So
is the Arab man is not in charge of. He's losing, right? But their women are not going against their men. As a matter of fact, if you go to Palestine right now, probably some of the toughest people you'll meet are the Palestinian women. The Palestinian women some Muslim women, Arab women will say, "May Allah bless my womb so I can give birth to 10 more male fighters that will fight this beast of Babylon." Yet
well,
the black woman doesn't have that mindset. Why?
you know, uh, that's the core. That's the hardcore that still lives in Gaza and in what is it, Jerusalem, or east of Jerusalem. But I have a few Palestinian friends in the Netherlands. You know, just like Rotterdam is the city for Cape Verdeans. Vlaardingen, where I've lived a lot of times and a lot of years altogether. Vlaardingen is what Rotterdam is to what Rotterdam is to Cape Verdeans. Vlaardingen is to Palestinians in the Netherlands. So what I see happening is that the girls, the Palestinian girls, are being groomed to marry outside of the Palestinian community. The mothers or parents give them Dutch names like Diana, Linda, uh, typical Dutch names, and so they are already, they groom their girls, their women to to well to marry Dutch, right? And
Yes, yes,
a lot of them have family not in Palestine, not in Israel slash Palestine, but in Jordan, because they fled. A lot of them fled because of these wars in since 48, right? So a lot of them live. I believe 2 to 4 million Palestinians live in Jordan, right? And they live as second class citizen in Jordan. So the Jordan King, they look at the Jordan King as sellout. He actually facilitated Israel or the West by accepting all those Palestinians, but keeping them small, right? As second class citizen. So it's if you look at the small part that stayed in the Gaza Strip and east of Jerusalem, well, yeah, maybe they have that mentality because they didn't uh, flee the wars and the attacks from these fake Jews, right? So yeah, I don't know,
mean,
man. I don't know. I
well,
guess it's
well,
not the
look,
rule. It's not the rule. It's the exception.
look. It may be the exception, but culturally speaking. Korean women want to marry Korean men. Um, you look at even Hispanic people in the U.S. Mexican marry Mexicans, Puerto Ricans marry Puerto Ricans. Brazilians. I don't know that many, but let's say people from like Ecuador. Um,
You
it's
know what I
interesting
think? You know what I
that
think? I think
yeah,
those
well,
people, I think those people count themselves in as European. You know what I see worldwide is that everybody is happy that they are not us. Everybody is happy that they are not us. Well, at least I'm not an African.
which is
You
fine.
know,
So
uh,
what
uh,
I'm
be-
I'm saying is what is wrong with because on one hand we can say it's that the black man doesn't have power. That's a great argument, but I do think it's something deeper and sinister. I think having seen black men be brutalized by the system, maybe perhaps black women are subconsciously not going to support black male efforts to power because they don't want to see their sons end up like
yes,
Malcolm X and Martin Luther King.
yes. This Lynch letter, you know, this Lynch letter, I believe it used to go deeper, right? Not only how to groom a family and set up the black woman against the black man, but I believe it came from uh, horse horse farms, right? So. Do you remember those old cowboy movies where they would catch an a herd of horses, and then they would practically torture the alpha man in front of all his sisters, his wives, the mother of his children, right? And maybe even kill it because the rest of it's a social pack, right? The alpha man with his harem is a social pack, and so the rest of the females in this pack, they would groom their male sons to be subservient and not revolutionary, because they would have to watch them suffer in the hands of the cowboy.
And I blame the women because their
It's
examples.
cooperation. Yes, it's
But I blame them
cooperation.
because, for example, and that's why I don't believe that the man has power. There was a group. I saw this film years ago. There was a group in was it Korea? Because when people think of Korea, the Koreans that you see today are nothing like the Koreans of old. The Koreans of old almost resembled native Hawaiians and Africans. They were in the forest, right? They were like the Innu in Japan, the native people. And this group, because people, especially the Pan Africans, oh, we can be like Japan. And they like to dismiss the atrocities and the evil stuff Japan had to do to colonize and take over land in Asia. They encountered these people, and the men knew that they were going to lose. It was a fight. They made a movie about it. I'm going to search it and send it to you. But they made a movie about it, and the men knew they were going to lose this war. But nonetheless, they fought the Japanese, and they died. They knew they were going to die. The women went into the forest with their children, killed their children. They gave their children poison to drink and hung themselves. They all effectively died. They died with their men. They could have easily said, "Oh, Japan, the big cock, come and take me. I'll agree." They said, "Hell no. Fuck you. I don't give a damn how good your Japanese sushi is. I don't care how good your cock is. I'm going to die with my man." So I
Yeah,
blame the women.
I'm not gonna compete with Japanese women for the Japanese dick, right?
I blame the women. We can't keep blaming the men and say, "Oh, until we get power." That's BS. Because, and that's just my
Yeah,
opinion. Because even if we have power, power is fleeting. Power is here today. Power can be gone tomorrow. Right? Power is fleeting.
yeah. I'm
If you
in
don't have the
camp.
loyalty, then you don't
I'm
have the loyalty.
yeah. Yeah, but please talk to me because I'm in that camp that says women cater to the actual men in power. So I blame the black men for not going for a seat on the stage. This is literally what I say. The men, as long as the men don't at least go for a seat on the world stage of power, and that is in the economic, military, in, any power, uh, uh, our woman will
Because
have.
those men who have power don't want them. At the end of the day, no matter how much a Palestinian woman will push up and call herself Diana and deceive herself that the Amsterdam guy who eats his bagels and salmon, right? That's what they eat over there. The bagels
Uh,
and the
uh,
salmon. Was that
no, no. In here, it's Irish potatoes.
okay? But no matter how much he will go and be with his white woman, 9 out of 10.
Yeah,
And even if he
yes,
steps out, those children, best believe, will not have anything to do with Palestine other than a fleeting association. The dominant
yes,
culture in that household will be the white one.
yep,
It
true.
will not be the one. And so it's so funny. However, even when
A conquered
African
nation.
men, even when African men, I'm sure you know many of them, Nigerians or whoever, they married these Netherlands girls. In that house, it's not Nigerian culture that dominates. They might wear some cloth, they might wear buba and wear dansiki for a party, ceremonial, but the dominant culture in that household is white Netherlands culture. That African man
Uh,
doesn't even have a say in that house.
yes, 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 yeah. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry to. I'm looking in my memory. I'm searching in my memory what I have to give it to you. But it's still a conquered nation, right? It's a conquered nation. You are conquered because you moved to the conquerors nation. So let's say Cape Verde is conquered, right, by Europeans, okay, by one European tribe, and you move to Europe, be it Portugal, the tribe that conquered us, or England, Germany, the Netherlands, Belgium, right? You move to the nation, the European nation that conquered your African nation. So there already the launch path is already of this women cater to the actual men in power, because back in the day the men would be slaughtered and the females would be taken, but now the men act as if the men act the men are side to side, shoulder to shoulder with the females, catering to the actual men in power. That's the ugly part of conquered nation nowadays. There's no genocide on the men. No, the men are kept alive, and they are turned into females. Even if they are heterosexual, they cater to the actual men in power. Look at something else that I discovered. Right, the because we moved to the Netherlands and not to Portugal. Uh, we have we are not constantly in a clinch with this Dutch guy, because we don't have a direct history with this Dutch guy. So you see Cape Verdeans uh, doing uh, act, doing you see Cape Verdeans doing more than the nations that were colonized and enslaved by the Dutch, right? You see us Cape Verdeans enter in types of businesses that that the ex enslaved of the Dutch don't do. They see working at a bank or working at Shell in a high position as as making it, right. While you see Cape Verdeans that don't have that are not constantly in a clinch with the Dutch. You see them start a business renting boat renting and grocery stores, and you don't see Suriname or Antillian people do that, and in Portugal it's us Cape Verdeans that are act that way. We see working at a bank and working at a major Portuguese brand as making it right, and I'm sure Suriname or Dutch Antillian folks that live there, they are way broader. They are not in the clinch with Portuguese people. They feel free, and they have space in their mind to look at other types of businesses to start. Right, grocery shops, boat renting, whatever, mountain climbing, diving, right. So this conquered relation with your conqueror, makes you behave like females, right. So Suriname men in the Netherlands are shoulder to shoulder with their wives, catering to the actual men in power, the Dutch guy. Cape Verdeans are in Portugal shoulder to shoulder with their females, catering to the actual men in power, like females, right. What do you think about that?
No, listen, I'm not disputing that part. That part is, that's like you said, the farm or the zoo. If you take the male lion out of his habitat, and you feed him chickens and you give him, uh, he doesn't hunt. He's not gonna, know what to do compared to the male lion who's um, in the jungle, and that's the key difference between the Palestinian woman who's in Gaza and the Palestinian woman who's in the Netherlands. She's no longer Palestinian, and I'm only saying this to say men don't raise women, women raise their children. So I don't believe in this idea that men lead because women manipulate them too. That's just my opinion. Women manipulate
Yeah,
them into positions of power. So because who does the state benefit the most? When you look at the key beneficiaries of modernity, women live longer than men. White women, they no longer die in childbirth the way they used to. They have plumbing, heating, so all these technologies. Whereas you know, thousands of few hundred years back in Europe, the people walked around with umbrellas because people would shit in the bucket and just throw it out the window. Or they'd bath the
yeah,
baby, don't throw the baby out of the bathroom. This is what they were doing. As a matter of fact, they didn't believe in bathing. Queen Isabella of Spain says she said she only took a shower, was it twice or three times in her life? Once when she was born and the other when she was getting baptized. So you can imagine what her husband was enjoying at night with her. But the thing I'm trying to say is that I think women, yes, they do cater to power. Power is attractive and seductive. But I also believe that there are women who, when they are with that man, they're dedicated to that man. And so that example of those women who gave their children poison and hung themselves while their men were being slaughtered. What is in the mentality of those women who died rather than let the Japanese come in and rape them and give them bastard children that would be confused? What mentality did those women have that said an attack on my man is an attack on me and I'd rather die than be alive and watch my man be dead? What would you say is the difference?
Shoo. I I need to think about that. And I what is the difference? It's blood. It's blood. You know. It's blood. It's blood. Race, greed, pride. Yeah, blood, ancestry. To understand that your ancestry is in spirit and in blood.
And that, what you just said, I think, is what we're missing in the conversations, especially Pan Africanism. We're missing what many might call the occultic aspect. We're missing the spiritual aspect, understanding the power of our genetic inheritance as
Yeah,
African people.
and reincarnation. Reincarnation.
Yes,
Not
yes.
not wanting your granddaddy to reincarnate in a Japanized society. A deeper understanding. Are you still there, or is it me?
No, no, I'm listening.
Yeah, yeah. So a deeper understanding of your culture. Probably those females thought with their men over generations, and not just the belly of the baby, and not just the 4 days that a belly of a baby lasts, right? So I guess those women think think over generations, the generations before them and the generations after them, like most healthy men still do. I guess that's it.
So then I think the real issue has to be, because we can get all the power in the world. I'll give you an example. Not always, but some of the biggest snitches, and even though there were men too, but some of the biggest snitches in the slave revolts who went against the slave revolts were women. Some
Well,
some of the
yeah,
men also, but also
no,
some
no,
of the biggest instigators of slave
yeah,
revolts were women.
yeah. Look at these female warriors that are celebrated in February, right? Uh, all, all of them, either negotiated with the slave traders, or they used their weapons. I mean, Ja Asentewa, she fought with Dutch muskets. I'm like, don't you see it? I mean, don't you see it? I mean, I love our women, but let's be real here. Where did the Dutch muskets come from, right? And here's another sensitive one: Harriet Tubman. Harriet Tubman worked with white men. Harriet Tubman worked with white men to transport slaves from the plantation to the factories up north.
Not only that, that's not even her real name.
Oh dear.
Oh, brother, we
No,
can get deep. We can get
let's
deep. I
let's
mean, I can tell you, this guy
if we
Fanon
if
was working with the CIA.
yeah, man, I read some of the emails that you sent, and I was like, oh damn. I was like, man, I know nothing. But let's take it to recent times, right? The Democratic Republic of Congo was under French slash EU. The EU was playing a UN role in the Democratic Republic of Congo, and they were forbidding the army to have weapons, right? So at a certain point they got fed up and they kicked them out. They kicked them out, and of course immediately the rebels at the border started to push harder with new weapons. So you forbid the Republic of Congo to have weapons, but you weaponize the rebels when you get kicked out. Did the Republic of Congo do? They hired Russian mercenaries to train their army, and they started buying Russian weapons, right? And what did the female minister of foreign affairs do? She ran to the EU, to tell on Congo, like, hey, they're working with Russians, you know. So yeah, Malawi, female president, gives the country to the colonizer, right? Like, oh, that's better than to give it to Chinese. The Chinese, this fear mongering about Chinese in Africa. I'm sorry, but what Chinese did in
It's
Africa
all
in
hogwash.
20 years, the European did not manage to do that in 500 years. I mean, the top 20 of the fastest growing economies is full of African countries, thanks to the the I I I, I mean, China is doesn't have to be in Africa to help Africa, but China is way cheaper than a Dutch Smith Tuck building these roads, and it's like, people complain about these roads. Well, yeah, these roads only go one season. With the next raining season, they are fucked up, right? Excuse me. They are worth nothing the next raining season. But I came to know that those who are British and Dutch contractors, you know. So it's like on purpose. And now
Do
this
you, do
this
you know
this
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 company
and
Julius Berger in Germany?
no.
They are like the largest contractor in Nigeria. Any construction work in Nigeria has to go through Julius Berger. They're a German construction
Unbelievable.
company, and I don't even know if they're like one of the top in Germany, but in Nigeria,
I never
all
heard of
construction.
him, and I
Yeah,
never heard of him.
so, and they're probably a low level construction company in
Yes, I probably, but
you
because
know.
I know a few, in my ICT days, but also before my ICT days, when I worked in metal, uh, 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 I got to know some German contractors, right? Krups is a big one, So I have never heard of this one. So maybe it's a special one to keep Africa, to keep Nigeria tidy. But Chinese, they are way cheaper. They are way cheaper. They have this mentality. In contrary to what Westerners want us to believe, they have moral values higher than Europeans, right? So yeah, they have to spend the yuan outside of Chinese border to protect it against deflation. There are many reasons that the Chinese are all over the globe, and not only in Africa. They are also all over South America, right? They are all over their neighbors. They are all over this trade line, this ancient trade line that they are building. They are all over Iran, for example, right? The 400 billion deal with Iran. But oh, China is colonizing Africa. I hate our people speaking like that. I hate it. I mean, China was a colony. China is a good example. They call their colonized era the century of shame, right? And our people don't even feel ashamed of being colonized. No, what do we do? We fight to be part of the colonizers is society. We use our skin color as crowbar into the colonizer his country. Like, you're racist, you're racist. Well, why don't you go home then? You have a home. You have a home. Yeah, racism this, racism that. It's hard for a black person to get a good job in Europe. Blah de blah de blah. Go home then. Why? It's true. You have to work at least 2 times as hard as a Dutch guy in the Netherlands. Okay, what if you work 2 times as hard in your home country, in your home African or Caribbean country? You know. So yeah.
Well, the Chinese argument, and yeah, China has its problems. Don't get me wrong, But the Chinese argument is not founded in any other. Um, and I'm going to do a presentation and send it to you. There's another myth. Um, see, the arguments against the Chinese, and I said China does have its issues, but the arguments against the Chinese come from the very people who colonized us in the first place. Just like the arguments for, and this would be a separate topic, but there's another pervasive myth that they talk about called the Arab slave trade. And there's never been a such thing as an Arab slave trade because there's no such thing as an Arab. You before the British destroyed what was the Ottoman Empire, the Arabs were a bunch of ragtag nobodies. They were just bandits. And yeah,
I don't. The sound was bad. I'm sorry. Before the British destroyed the Ottoman.
yeah, before they destroyed the Ottoman Empire, there was no such thing as an Arab. There were a bunch of ragtag bandits and small clans and villages that were on the fringes. And the British, just like they uh, empowered the same type of people in
Well,
Afghanistan. Hello?
may I cut in
Yeah,
there?
yeah, yeah.
You may be right, because at this moment in the Netherlands there's a huge marketing thing going on for some sort of a family, a Dutch family, anthropologists, and a huge marketing for this display that they have, etc., with pictures of their North African the North African families that they traveled with or dealt with. And guess what? These North African families are black, blackety black, right? So I'm like, wait a minute. So 200 years ago, North Africa was black.
Of course, but this is listen.
But
The Roman
on the other
Empire
hand, brother,
crashed into West
on
Africa.
but on the other hand, you know, Leopold, King Leopold, a king that the Dutch pulled out of their ass, because Belgium was part of the Netherlands. So where did this fucking king come from? Anyway, I have my views on that also. But King Leopold in Brussels, he has monuments where he brags about freeing Africans from the Arab slave trade. And King Leopold is the 19th century. So what the impression that I get from that is that up until the 19th century, Arabs were selling Africans as slaves. So yeah. Uh, and another funny thing about those monuments, it's besides, it's in a corner of the Jubel Park, and in that right outside of that park is a mosque of over 200 years in Brussels, a mosque of older than 200 years. So that's weird. That's weird to me, especially when you say there was not no such thing as an Arab,
Yeah, of
and
course not.
I I I I, I see Arab as a mulatto. Arabs are mulatto. North Africans are
Even
mulatto.
deeper, the idea of an Arab comes from one person and one person only: the British. The
Again,
Brit,
again,
the British financed what we call the so-called Arab identity today. It's just like being
right.
Hispanic or Latino.
The Prince of Arabia, right?
Yes, now you get it. You've connected it already. You see what the one of the things that's why the occult science is very, very much needed in terms of because the Pan Africanists are very, very materialist. They don't understand the spiritual concept. They're divorced from their spirituality. So for them, they're pseudo Christians. They're moralists. They're Christians. They don't understand. Um, it's like being a Latino in the United States. They say Latino, or they say Hispanic, but it doesn't mean anything. It means nothing because Latino and Hispanic mean you speak Spanish. That's it. But they give labels, as part of that program, and they give labels, and those labels are what they use to, you know, brainwash people into identifying with labels, and that's part of the magic of modernity. So they give you a label, and most people start to identify with it. So, oh, I'm a water bottle. I'm a water bottle. I'm a water bottle lian, and all I do is water bottles, and it's just the stupidest thing. And so, this idea of being an Arab, when you think of the Arab, the template is one guy with a head, and his woman is there, he beats her, and he screams, "La, la, 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 la," and and that's what we assume, the template of an Arab is, and we go along with it. When in actuality, the real course, like I said, it was the Ottoman Empire. These are the Moorish people who gave the European the civilization that they know. You know, this is
Yeah,
the
it
yeah,
are the remains. It are the remains of the black people that gave European
yes,
civilization. It are the remains. You make me think about something, right? So you mix two types of dogs, right? And the result is something that looks like XYZ, right? And
yes.
then you keep mixing those two types of dogs. You keep mixing them, and then you have this XYZ looking dog, and you maintain the mix. You maintain that mix, and at a certain point in time, you develop a name for that mix. Let's say you call it a German Shepherd,
Mm,
right? So I think that is what's happening in around the Mediterranean,
of
because
course,
uh, the average Spaniard, the average Italian, the
can easily
average
fit for what we
Israeli,
call
right?
an Arab. They're
The average
interchangeable,
Moroccan, yes sir,
super
exactly,
interchangeable. Because if you take a
exactly,
Moroccan and
and
give him
and
an Italian accent, you can't tell the difference.
and same goes for Mexican, same goes for Brazilian,
Exactly.
same goes for Colombian,
And
Cuban.
these are the occult type of magics that are occurring that is not talked about in the Pan African space. They don't realize that. People don't even realize the occult symbolism that was in Germany during Hitler's reign and Japan. People don't know. I mean, these are deep, deep, deep conversations. I mean, some of the guys who wrote about this stuff,
You know,
people that came
you,
after
you,
them,
you know what I fear that it is that consciousness is too close. Consciousness is too close. Consciousness is behind your eyes, and our people are locked into what the eyes see and what the ears hear, and what happens behind the eyes and the ear is not there. There's no eye.
No, there's no subconscious again. The African subconscious is being wiped away. It's being wiped clean and being replaced with a mellow,
With
subtle,
nothing.
well, yeah, with nothing. So there's
I,
nothing
I wish it was
there.
self-hate, I wish it was self-hate, because there would be a self.
Yes, agreed, 1,000%. And so these are the things that, like, 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 so when they say, for example, like I said, with the Arab slave trade, in order to have a slave trade, see, like the Romans conquered people's lands, but they never moved people in mass. Two reasons. One, they didn't have the capacity in terms of the ships. Well, they could have, but it would be foolish. That's one. Two, they didn't have the transportation system. They didn't have major transport to move people in mass. Right? This actually comes about after the invention of the train, right? The steam engine, which ties in with the combustion engine that you're talking about, which is the second wave of the industrial, you know, uh,
Yeah.
revolution. After the steam engine, the combustion engine goes further. And so the Romans weren't moving people into Rome because Rome was a small place, but they controlled everywhere around the globe. But it was a very small place. You know, no one really came to Rome. Most Roman subjects, Roman citizens, never even got close to Rome. They stayed in their location. And so,
Yeah.
in order to have a slave population, you have to have a mechanism in order to house them. I can't bring in thousands of kids from Amsterdam into my house until I build a school system. If I just bring them into my house is gonna, it's just basic law, right? They're gonna consume the resources. It's gonna collapse. It's gonna turn into eventual chaos. You have to have a system in place to house what you're gonna bring in. If the Arabs, so-called Arabs, had a slave trade, and I'm not saying Arabs, what we call Arabs, didn't take people from Africa. I'm not saying that didn't happen, but these large-scale slave trade. Can someone show me the plantations? Show me the plantations. Not only show me the plantations, show me the historical remnants. Now there are some, like in India, there were African slaves taken there that still held on to their culture. There are parts of like Iraq where you have Afro-Iraqis that you know look black, like that still held on to their culture. But
Yeah, Palestinians too. Black
yeah,
Palestinians,
yeah.
black
So
Turks.
those, but they're in pockets, right? They're not a major. Whereas if you look at a Jamaican, if you look at a Trinidadian, the way they speak, the music, people don't know a lot of calypso, soca, Cuba actually influenced West African high life. Because the Africans, oh, that's our music. So soca was very big, calypso was very big in West Africa, which inspired people like Franco, who inspired Kofi Olomide, who inspired Avilo, and then you get the Zouk, right, with Haiti,
Yeah,
and the
yeah,
Compa,
yeah.
and it's all these, and then you have Sukus. So these are
Y-
all cousins, right? So you can
you
see
know
the
that
simulation. Yeah,
that music is very big here in Senegal.
yes, of course.
It's
You
big
know,
in Senegal.
very big. I can play Cuban music in Senegal, they'll dance because they hear their music there. And so you don't have that in the Arabian world. There isn't a group of people from that's and this argument disproves the Arab slave trade myth and it disproves the so-called Dark Ages for Europe because you can't forget it. You can't forget things that you did. If you go to Brazil, they eat akara J. But in Nigeria, they eat akara, which most West Africans eat. You take the beans, you blend it, you add some peppers, and you fry it in palm oil. I don't
You
know. I'm
know,
sure they do that in Cape. I don't know.
I could I could add to this with very controversial shit. On the Cape Verde Islands, you have a music style that we call mazurka, right? And it's exactly the same as traditional music from Czechoslovakia. It's exactly the same. We call it mazurka, and in Czechoslovakia they call it female chorus or something, and it's exactly the same, right?
In
So
Czechoslovakia, they have a music that's very similar to what they're doing in Cape Verde. You're saying?
yes, sir. And there's a couple of things, there's a couple of myths, semi myths. European history is full of bullshit, right? Full of
Of
full of
course.
shit full of shit that doesn't make no sense. But
Full
in the
of
other
people
way,
hiding away
it's
from
made
their,
it
their
makes
black and Muslim heritage.
yeah, yes, sir. Yes, sir. So they say the Moors came to the doors of Vienna, right? So
Yeah.
the Moors were returned at the doors of Vienna, and coincidentally, in Vienna Vienna is the home of classical music. Vienna is the home of medicine, etc., etc. All those things that the Moors brought to Europe, right? In the pharmaceutical in the pharmacies, even here in Netherlands, there's still that head over more. You know, lately, it's an Arab, right? It's the head of an Arab with his mouth open and a pill sitting on his tongue. But it used to be a blackamoor with his mouth open and a pill on his tongue, right? So it's a lie that the Moors were stopped there because the Moors
Well, if
actually,
that's the case, how did they get what the feet? If the Moors were stopped there, how did the Dutch all of a sudden just develop this black guy name?
yeah. You know, I hate our people in here about Zwarte Piet. Yeah, he's a slave. He's a slave. No, Zwarte Piet has to go. Zwarte Piet has to go. He is no slave. How can you wear gold in on your ears as a slave? Don't you think the slave master would rip those earrings off his ears? And why is he dressed like a
Like
noble,
royalty.
like nobles, right? Yeah, it's he was a child slave. He was a child slave. No, man. You even and those songs are gone, you know. But in my days at the grammar school, we used to sing those songs. Moriaantje zo zwart als roet, ging eens wandelen zonder hoed, maar hij bracht eh, maar de zon scheen op zijn bolletje, dus hij nam een parasolletje. That's a child song, and it speaks of Moor. Moriaantje is a small Moor, right? Little Moor, as black as soot, went out for a walk without a hat. The sun shined on his head, so he took with him a parasol, right? So more, little more as black as soot. I'm done. I'm done with this Arab. Yeah, it's Arabs and Muslims, Arabs. No, no, black Africans. Moors were black Africans.
But, what's funny is I sent you that stuff on Russia, and you know it's interesting.
Yes,
Earlier in the time
yes,
we talked about
yes,
We
right.
talked about Prussians, and the Prussians, um, you know, the
Europe is saturated with black heritage, with Moorish
yes,
heritage.
yes, from the Byzantine Empire all the way to
These
uh,
paintings, these paintings that you in that email that you sent about blacks, Africans in Russia,
yes,
how how those two or three this young girl and those other two in the background. That's how Zwarte Piet is dressed, man. That's how
yes,
Zwarte Piet is dressed.
and they don't want to acknowledge that because the truth of the matter is that the the history of Europe is something that they had to invent in order to justify. Okay, this guy, um, what's his name? I don't know if you're familiar with Spain. The hero of Spain, El Cid. You ever heard of him?
No,
So El Cid, every year they throw a party for him. He's the man who kicked out the Moors. Do you know what's funny about El Cid?
he was black.
He was a Moor himself.
Oh yes, I know
His
about
granddaughter, his great
feasts in
granddaughter,
Spain. Yeah, I
lived
know
at the
about feasts in Spain, and
yeah.
they are blackface, and they also dress like Zwarte Piet.
Of course, listen. Do you know in America the Ku Klux Klan? You know what the Ku Klux Klan used to wear?
Oh shit.
You know that comes from Moorish Spain, right?
No.
Yeah, the hoodie with the pointed thing, all that is Moorish. You see, look, like I said, brother, this stuff, it's not just a physical fight. That's why I've been telling the Pan Africans, this stuff is a deeper fight than that. Yes, of course, if someone comes with some guns, get out of the way, get your own gun, protect yourself. I'm not telling you, the spirits will protect you, and they may well. But what I am saying is the fight is on a programming level. It's on a psychological level. You know, what are we psychologically consuming? You know, the sayings after the Haitian Revolution, I believe they told them, they said, we've beaten the French, but we're still French. We're still acting like Frenchmen. We're behaving like Frenchmen. We're not doing what we're doing as Africans. What are we contributing to the world as Africans? There's a young African guy who just came up with an invention. He can power televisions without electricity using radio waves. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah, I saw it.
Now, I haven't heard anything about the guy since, right? But and I pray he's safe. But you see, because Africans are naive, they're naive. So if you have that type of technology, don't tell anybody. You make sure you provide it to enough people so they know, and this is how
Yeah,
we can build our villages back. Because that
yeah,
village in Senegal can now start powering their own electricity using radio waves. Now they can get Wi-Fi. Now they can do, so now I can sit in my village, surf the internet, do this, do this, do this. I don't have to leave. So now what happens? When we're in our villages, we don't have to all run to Dakar and crowd up
yeah,
Dakar. We can stay in our village, marry our wife in our village, and be local. And what's so funny about Europe and America? They call them towns, they're really villages. Those towns, those old towns in Europe are really their villages.
you know, the Netherlands compared, the Netherlands has nothing like Paris, nothing like Lisbon, nothing like London or New York. The Netherlands is a bunch of villages stuck together.
Yeah, and that's the alternative, I think, that's missing in the Pan African conversations. And I hope that as we continue these chats, I think unfortunately, we didn't. I didn't get to start at the time I wanted. I'm going to try and fix that going forward. But I think the more people, and I'll be honest with you, I don't want too many people. I just want enough like-minded people to add to the conversation. So, you know, definitely you can send me people from your place. You can send me their emails. You have my emails. And so the days that we're going to host this, I'll send out the email to enough people, let them know when the stream is going to start. And if we have like 4 or 5 people, we have a few people listening live, and they can contribute meaningful conversation to the alternative. Because I'm not just coming from the developed Africa, I'm coming from the occult idea of how do we use our spirituality? How do we use our environment? How do we use our language as a way to escape this Babylon?
When,
How do
well,
we
then
use
in
that?
that case,
Yeah.
in that case, I'm glad that we at the last moment we chose this logo, and this name Black Pentagram, because that's all about the occult. What is hidden behind your eyeballs, behind your
Mm,
eardrums, behind your skin? It's that infinite blackness, and what we should call our I, our self,
mm,
our consciousness. So yeah, I'm glad in the end, right? Yesterday, we decided to pick this symbol and this name, because that's all about the occult, the
yes.
level where this war is, for the great part, fought, is on the conscious level. Yeah.
Okay. Well, on that note, I know it's late where you are. I want to thank you. Appreciate you coming by. I think it was an excellent conversation. And next week, Friday, we'll be back. Hopefully, we get other people in the audience, not just us two. But like I said,
Yeah.
I'll send out to other people, invite them. I have a couple of people who I think may show up. And definitely, please, like I said, people from Amsterdam that you know think along the way you think, let's send it out to them, and hopefully they can join, and other people can join, and we can have a great build, I think, to
Yeah.
spread that awareness. in the atmosphere.
genuine thinkers. Yeah,
Yes, yes,
and
definitely.
doers, and doers.
Yes, definitely. So on that note, um, man, we're gonna end our first episode. I feel good.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's your initiative, and I am satisfied about. Yeah, yeah, I'm very satisfied about how it went. Thank you,
Alrighty, brother. So be safe out there and have a good night.
thank you, and you too. Have a good night.